Lions TV, happy Sunday. This is the final individual video from myself on the 21-22 season. There will be then debates and I will be speaking to Benjamin Bloom hopefully throughout the summer as well to look back and of course look ahead to next season, which is going to be a very, very big one. But as I said, this is the last individual video you're going to see from me. Just looking back on Rowett's time at the club so far, and by the way, he hasn't left, for those asking on social media. I'm just looking back. We're coming towards the end of his 3-year plan, so I want to look at the players he's brought in, the loanees we've had to get in, is that his fault or not, etc, etc. Before we get into this video, I'm just going to let you know that the lockdown videos I've been filming are going to start to stagger out from next Sunday. So I've already filmed Phil Barber, Colin Cooper, and most recently the Peckham Beckham, Darren Ward. So you're going to get Phil Barber next Sunday and so on and so forth. And hopefully, if I can keep the guests flowing, I will bring you a lockdown guest every single Sunday until the season is ready to get going again in late July, I believe, because of the World Cup. If you're not already a Patreon and you want to become a Patreon, you can join for as little as £2.50 per month. All those episodes are already up on our Patreon page and they will continue to do so and be up early, advert-free, exclusively for Patreons. But if you don't want to pay the money, not a drama. Just wait for them to get staggered out across the summer. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Don't say that enough, to the channel, as we are fast approaching 17,500 subscribers. Right, okay, so let's get into this video. And I've called it the 3-year plan. You know, was it a rebuild or was it not a rebuild? I just want to start out by saying, we all know I was Rowett out, okay, when we wasn't doing so well. I am now honestly not fussed either way. If he wants to stay, okay, not a problem with it. If he leaves, I'm not really fussed either. I want to give big credit to the club and the chairman, John Berylson, because as we know across football in general, and we've seen very recently our club as well, it's very hard to follow up one good manager with another. And Neil Harris, a very different manager to Gary Rowett, but as we're going to look at in this video, similar sort of results in the champ. You could argue that the season we finished 21st, but as I said, we'll get into that. So fair play to the club, because they absolutely appointed the right man in Rowett. Not everyone's a lover of him or his tactics. It has been boring at times, but he's definitely carried on from where Neil Harris has left off. Maybe not gone to the next level. Some of you may think he has, but I'm going to point out in this video why I don't think he has. But as I said, listen, I'm absolutely happy for him to stay now. But where are we with that? He signed his contract at the club in October. I'm not sure the exact date. I know Neil Harris left on the 6th. I think he came in around the 20th. So he signed that in October 2019. And he did, as the title of this video suggests, say to the club and the fans, I have a 3-year plan to get us into the playoffs. Fair's fair, he's fallen short, but not much. We took it to the last day of course at Bournemouth, eventually falling 6 points short of Luton Town in 6th place. So I'm just going to look back, you know, where we are with it as a squad, because again, you know, as I said, I'm not Rowett in or Rowett out. I'm not really fussed either way, but factors have led to it being, it's going to be a very difficult summer for us, in my opinion, and I'm worried about next season, but I'll get into that as I said. Okay, so let's wind it back to the Neil Harris era, and first and foremost, I'll say and reiterate what I was just alluding to, is that, of course, Kenny Jackett left, and we followed Kenny Jackett with two absolutely shambolic managers. Firstly, Steve Lomas. Second, Ian Holloway. Did put us in the position that we was in when Neil Harris come in temporarily and took us down, although the damage was done. And then, of course, 2 seasons back in League One and promoted at the second time of asking, the second playoff game of asking against Bradford. So now we're going to look at Neil Harris's record in the Championship to Gary Rowett's record in the Championship. I'm going to put it on the screen so you can follow along nice and easily. 2017-18, first season back in the Champ, of course, under Neil Harris, a very respectable 8th finish in the division. I think that actually went to the last day of the season as well, didn't it? Against Aston Villa, although we needed something ridiculous like 7 goals. But mathematically, it was still possible, so similar levels to where we are have just finished this season. Then the 2018-19 season, we finished 21st. Of course, that was sort of the second season syndrome, in my opinion, and we dropped right out of things, nearly getting relegated. And I think, luckily, Rotherham just about pipped us to it. I don't think we got out of trouble. I just think teams around us were equally as bad, and as a result, we did survive. So then you move into Neil Harris's 3rd season in the Championship, the 2019-20 season. Now, this, for me, is what I call, what I've written down as the crossover season. So in that summer, Neil Harris brought 10 players in. He was given budget by the club. Not amazing budget, but definitely by our standards, there was more than enough money thrown at it to bring in. He brought in Matt Smith, Conor Mahoney. I nearly laughed when I said John Daddy, Budvarsson. There's been some bad Harris signings, of course we know that, but of course some very, very good ones that are still the mainstay and the core of our side, which I'll cover in a bit. Harris, of course, then left the club, didn't he, in October-ish, I think it was. Can't remember our exact league position at that time, but I do remember it was after the Luton game away, in which we drew 1-1, and Tom Bradshaw scored a late equaliser. So he left the club in a position, and I'll always respect him for that. He didn't let it deteriorate. He left at a point which he thought was right for himself and right for the team. And when Rowett came in, a lot of people were saying, well, this is, he's playing, and this ain't his players. These are Harris players. But as I said, I'm going to look at the other side of the coin shortly. I don't think that's a bad thing, because he just signed 10 players, all capable in this division, or the majority of them, not naming any names, John Daddy. But, he had a squad there to work with. Millwall players as well, by the way. Again, another thing I'll look at going forward with the loans. They were Millwall players. They were all contracted to the club. And it worked out with some, look, the back three and the goalkeeper, all Neil Harris players. Maybe, the other side of that, some not so much. The Conor Mahoney's of this world that never really got a chance under Rowett. He wasn't a Rowett-type player. But he came into a club that had players contracted full-time and were committed to the club. So I don't think Harris left it in a bad situation at all. I think it was around 15th, 12th, something like that when he left. And we ended up finishing 8th that season. I can't actually remember that. I was surprised when I checked the stats this morning on Wikipedia. We finished 8th again that season. So that was the crossover season. You can, of course, give Rowett a bit of credit there. And when he first came in, it wasn't, I'll be honest, it wasn't as dull as it later became for me. But now it isn't again. But, it got to a point where I was just like, what is going on? It's so boring to watch. It's ruining my Saturdays actually coming. And that was at a point, about a year ago, 18 months maybe. But I liked him when he first came in. He changed the system. We were doing things right. We were playing football. He was making substitutions to change games and win games. The Charlton one I always remember back to when he brings on Aidan O'Brien and Matt Smith late on in the day. We finished 8th that season. Then the 2020-21 season, we finished 11th. Of course, that would be the COVID season, wouldn't it? Where not a lot of fans got to football and was all locked indoors for a long, long time. And then, of course, most recently, the season, it's still in play for the playoffs. And I'm tipping Forest to go up, by the way. But, finished 9th in the division. Blackburn Pictures on the last day ended up 8th. Of course, as I've already said, and we know, it went down to that last day. So, finishes under Rowett and finishes under Harris. I'll put them there again on the screen for you. Harris had clear 8th, didn't he? Rowett had a 9th and an 11th. Harris, of course, had that 21st, but then sort of left the club halfway through that next season. Well, it's early season, it's not halfway through. So, again, very different managers. I think Neil Harris gets a lot of unwarranted shit. Not the greatest tactician, but definitely a motivator and a good man manager. And as a result, has Rowett taken us that next level? Positional-wise, no, he hasn't. That's the facts are there. As a great man, Aidan O'Brien once said, the stats don't lie. And you can see we're pretty much as we were. But, again, that isn't a bad thing. As we said, Lomas coming in, and then Holloway after Kenny Jackett left us in all sorts of trouble. So, fair play to Rowett, fair play to Harris for walking when he did, and fair play to the ball for making an appointment. You rarely get that in football where the next appointment comes in and it will work, and it has worked. You cannot say it hasn't worked. We're still in the Championship. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons established next season in the Championship, and that's where we want to be as a football club. Now, can we push it to the next level with the squad we got? This is the issue for me, and I'm going to again start out by saying for people that think this is a massacre of Gary Rowett, it isn't, or a defamation. I think he's done well, especially the second half of this season. I realise we've been through COVID. I know some of you are probably saying that at the screen or putting it in the comments. I don't really like to factor that in because although, yes, we are a small club budget-wise, all clubs in the division would have suffered from the exact same. You get 0 gates through the door. It's going to affect everyone in different amounts. Full houses, smaller grounds, whatever, bigger grounds. So, in my mind, that hasn't changed the situation for anyone. We've all just gone from there to there, across the division, across football. So I don't really like to factor that in, although I know some people do. So if you do, fair play to you. The problem I've got is that we've got a lot of players leaving the club, loanees, out of contract. And going forward, we're going to have to do, and Gary Rowett's already said it as well in the press, a very, very big summer of transfer dealings. But as we know, money isn't always available for us, and we're already talking about loaning Elliot Anderson next season, who's been on loan at Bristol Rovers from Newcastle, amongst others. So the fact that we're already looking for loans just reiterates the fact to me that we haven't got a lot of money, full stop. So now let's look at who we're actually going to have left next season, okay? Contracts up for Keith and Bell, although there is talk of offering him a new one. Jeb Wallace, of course, should be leaving the club, although we're trying to hold on to him. Again, these are difficult to sort out all the time that Gary Rowett hasn't signed his contract, which I believe to be up also in October. There is rumours that there's a contract on the table that he hasn't yet signed. And with all the managerial change around in our division alone, do I think he'll stay? I already see someone ask me that on social media. I'm not sure. Probably, I'd say 60-40 no. But as I said, I don't mind whether he does or whether he doesn't. I've got no issues with him now. After the second half of this season we've had, and we showed a little bit more bite, a little bit more kick bollock, and getting forward, a little bit of creativity, and we can score goals. So, as I said, getting back to it, Alex Pearce leaving the club out of contract. Keith Bell out of contract, potentially going to get offered one. Jeb Wallace out of contract, and Conor Mahoney also out of contract and will definitely be leaving the club. Now let's look at our loanees. We've got Luke Freeman, by the way, has left Sheffield United. He's a free agent now, so it wouldn't surprise me if we went back in for him. Daniel Ballard, Gary Rowett's confirmed he's unlikely to return to the club. You've got Benicophobia, of course. Now he's been our top goal scorer. Could have clubs sniffing around him. Still a year to run on his Stoke contract. Ollie Burke, there is talk he may stay, although astronomical wages from Sheffield United could be the issue. And of course, Shea Ojo showed promise, but when he was fit towards the end of the season, couldn't get back in. I don't expect him at all to return from Liverpool. So that is 9 players. On top of that, you can add Marlon Romeo into the mix because he'll be coming back from Portsmouth, and I don't think he's got a future at the club. So we need to either A, reloan him out, or B, sell him. So all those players leaving the club, that is 10 players leaving the club. So now let's have a look with who we've got left in what positions going forward. Okay, so Bartosz Bulkowski, of course, no problem at all. George Long, I really rate as a goalkeeper, as he's understudy. And the luckiest man in football, Ryan Sanford, is our third goalkeeper. Permanently contracted to Millwall, never kicked a football or caught one in his life, but he's still there. So we're nicely covered in the goalkeeping areas. Defenders-wise, we'll talk centre-backs first off, because, of course, we like to play three at the back under out. Murray Wallace, Sean Hutchinson, and Jake Cooper. You can also add into that, and I'm going to cover this shortly in a minute, Hayden Muller and Alex Mitchell, both been out on loan last season, both good defenders in my opinion, and more than capable of the level. Then you've got your wing-backs, you've got Danny McNamara and you've got Scott Malone, both contracted to the club. Midfielders, you've got George Evans, George Saville, Billy Mitchell and Ryan Leonard. Strikers, Tyler Bury, Mason Bennett, Tom Bradshaw and Isaac Olafe, of course, been out on Sutton on loan for like 2 years now and done really well there. I think he's had a little problem with injuries here and there recently. So let's talk about the youngsters a little bit. I've just mentioned them there and covered them in the squad, and they will have to come into it now 100% because we are lacking in numbers in first team players. Is that a bad thing? No, I've been calling for this for a long time. So let's go through them. Hayden Muller, fantastic defender, likes to play at the back, centre back. He has played in the first team, of course. Can play right wing back, although he's predominantly a centre back. Been out on loan at St Johnstone, didn't really work out for him there. I'm not sure why, but a great player, trust me, and one definitely for the future, or listen, maybe for the now. You know, Alex Pearce leaving the club with short on numbers. Get Hayden in. You've also got, of course, Alex Mitchell, very different type of defender to Hayden, out and out defender. Great in the air, you know, will give any centre forward a tough time trying to get around him. The guy's an absolute unit. He's had a very good season out on loan at Leyton Orient, so now he's back in. Then you've got Isaac Olafe, of course, who scored goals for 2 seasons at Sutton. Now, Olafe, by the way, is not that young. He's the same age as Danny Mack. I think he's 23, 22. So again, you know, I always say this, if you're not in and around the first team at that point, then what are you doing with your life? So he's proven himself at the low levels. He can't do any more than that. And with our apparent lack of firepower up front, for me, it's definitely time to bring Olafe in. Of course, I will mention there's many other youngsters. You've got Bessart Topoloj, who's a great left sort of wing back, can also play left side as centre back. Great left peg on him. And of course, Zach Lovelace, who we know. There's loads of others. Nana Boateng. But I don't think those ones there will be involved. It's not my choice, but they would definitely benefit from loans here and there. But I think Olafe, Mitchell, Alex Mitchell, of course, and Hayden Muller definitely now need to be in and around it. Right, okay, I've got my busy notepad here. I'm going to have to use it to read off some players' names because Rowett said it was a 3-year rebuild. Yes, we had COVID. Yes, he's done okay. He's done, you know, he sort of kept it at the level that Neil Harris has, in my opinion. And I'm just talking results-wise. I'm not talking the way we play, long ball or passing, whatever. But was it a rebuild? As I said, Neil Harris walks away from the club and left 10 brand new players signed up to the club on a long term. Is that a good thing or not? I don't know. I'll let you be the judge of that. But I'm going to tell you now who we're left with and how many of those Gary Rowett actually signed. Goalkeepers, Bulkowski, Neil Harris signing. Hutch, Murray Wallace and Cooper. Neil Harris signings. Danny Mack came through the academy. Billy Mitchell came through the academy. Scott Malone, okay, was a Gary Rowett signing. George Evans was a Gary Rowett signing. George Saville, well, Middlesbrough let us off the money. He'd already been at the club twice. But okay, Rowett signing, but we knew it already worked for him at the club. Billy Mitchell came through the academy. Ryan Leonard, Neil Harris signing. Tyler Bury, Neil Harris signing. Tom Bradshaw, Neil Harris signing. So, if I'm not mistaken, the permanents that Gary Rowett has signed is George Long, is Scott Malone, is Keithden-Beld, is Evans, and Mason Bennett. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's those 5 players that he's bought. Long, Malone, Keithden-Beld, Evans, and Bennett. They're the 5 players that he has signed in a 3-year rebuild. I don't think I have to say anything there. You know, the players that have been doing it for him over an extended period of time are Neil Harris players or their loanees. And I'm not sure if the loanees will be returning. I think maybe we'll try to sign a Phobie, although his stock will now be high after scoring 13 goals for us. So I don't know. Look, in my opinion, this was not a rebuild. This was a dress-up. Right, and that's my Jerry Springer final thoughts on this. It wasn't a rebuild. It was a dress-up. I'm not blaming Rowett solely for that because his hands were tied, but he would have known that when he come to the club. Budget-wise, would his budget have been dropped due to COVID? Maybe. I don't know. But what I'm saying to you is this. Neil Harris walked away with 10 full-time Millwall players contracted to Millwall, new ones he just brought in. Gary Rowett has yet to sign a contract, and he's bought us 5. Scott Malone probably not long left, if we're honest. Keithden-Beld is out of contract. They're considering offering him a new one, but I don't think he's up to the level anymore. George Evans, I don't think he's up to the level anyway. George Long is the reserve goalkeeper. Mason Bennett is a great player, but can he stay fit? So there you have it, the 3-year rebuild. Was this a rebuild or was it a dress-up? Was it Rowett's fault? Has he done the best he could with the situation that he's been put in? All I know is this. We need a fucking lot of players to go again next season, and notoriously and famously, we haven't got a big budget. So I'm very excited to see what happens in the summer. I was going to say worried. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. As I said, your Lions Lounges will start staggering out from next Sunday, starting with Phil Barber. Please subscribe to Lions TV. Come on, you Lions.